Hey guys, it's Ryan Fowler with InnerMasculine.com. Hope you're all doing well. Today, we are going to go over a PowerPoint I prepared that's going to show how our subconscious mind develops in childhood, up through our adolescent years, explain how the subconscious mind works. And for those of you who are scheduling sessions with me, I'm going to give you some things you can do to prepare for the session, that you should do to prepare for the session to get the absolute most benefit from the session. But even if you're not doing a session for me, this is still going to be a very useful video to watch so that you understand how your subconscious works, how it's affecting you, and how you've been shaped in your childhood to feel and believe the things you do the way you do today. So here we go. Gonna share this screen. And here we go. So, understanding the subconscious mind and preparing for your first session. So we're going to talk about, there's really 5 things that people struggle with. It may even only be 3 things depending on how we look at it. So I'm going to talk about the things that people commonly struggle with that are lodged in your subconscious, what we call a false core identity, bad subconscious programming, bad core beliefs, whatever you may want to call it. So we're going to start with that. Now, I have a whole video on my YouTube channel that talks about toxic shame. So I'm not going to dive into it as much here, but I still want to go over this because 90% of people who come to me struggle with, really people coming to me, 95, 99% struggle with toxic shame. 90% of the general populace has toxic shame to some degree. So toxic shame, there's 3 types. The first one, I'm not good enough. It could be I'm inadequate. It could be I'm disgusted with myself. I love myself. Or it could be I'm just not as good as I want to be. I'm never as good as I want to be. I'm never quite there, not quite to the level where I can be happy with myself, be worthy of love, etc. So everything Inner Masculine is about catering to men and taking things from the man's viewpoint for men. So how this manifests with men, poor confidence, especially with women, but it could also be in the workplace. Maybe you're not the guy who's taking charge. You hang back. You're more, I'm not saying everyone's meant to be or should be a leader, but maybe you're afraid to lead. Maybe you're afraid to be the guy in charge. Maybe you're afraid to speak up, speak out. Maybe you're afraid to be your real authentic self and just be who you are. Let the chips fall where they may. Be proud of who you are. That all ties into poor confidence, poor boundaries, letting others walk all over you. A lot, men and women will walk over you if you have poor boundaries. Not everyone will, but a lot of people will. That's just how it is. They'll get away with what they can get away with, and they can even sense what you're used to and just kind of adapt to that, not even trying to be a jerk. So if you're not able to stand up for yourself, if someone is disrespecting you, making you feel uncomfortable, you're not willing to voice that and stand up, you have poor boundaries. That is all tied to feeling you're not good enough. Oh, I'm not good enough to be treated better. So you tolerate being treated poorly. Terrified of rejection. So I have a lot of guys come to me. They have approach anxiety. They're afraid to approach attractive women, start up a conversation, get the phone number, etc. And this is because, well, it's really 2 reasons. One is if she rejects him, even if it's just, oh, I have a boyfriend, oh, thank you, but, I got to go. Women are rarely just in your face. They can be, but rarely are they in your face. No, they'll come up with the excuse, oh, I'm busy this weekend, I'm sorry. But we know it's rejection, many men. So when we find that out, it can just confirm, see, you really aren't good enough for that girl. She rejected you. And if you have toxic shame down in your core, and that just affirms, see, you really are a loser. See, she rejected you. That's very painful. Well, that's why we have approach anxiety. I'm going to go more into anxiety later, but anxiety is a tool our brain uses, and it's not always bad. In our modern society, it's usually holding us back. But our mind, humans have evolved mostly in caveman times, hunter-gatherer societies, being around as Homo sapiens, 250,000 to 500,000 years, only having civilization for 10,000 years. So anxiety kept us alive in the past. Now it can still serve a purpose. Oftentimes it doesn't, but anxiety is a tool our brain uses when our brain sees there's a potential for us to hurt, whether that's physically or emotionally. It will give us anxiety to make us avoid the situation. And with approach anxiety, by the way, we can get anxiety because our brain knows if the girl rejects you, you're going to feel like a loser, and that's painful. But it could also be if you are too scared to approach her because of the anxiety, then you're going to beat yourself up and feel bad and have pain that way. That's the interesting thing. Our brain doesn't, especially our subconscious doesn't have a sense of time. It doesn't distinguish between before and after. It's just things are. And so with anxiety, if you have a subconscious program that will get triggered, toxic shame, saying, hey, I didn't approach her, affirms I'm not good enough, or she rejected me and that affirms I'm not good enough. This feeling we have deep down gets spiked to the surface and confirms this deep down feeling we have. Doesn't matter if that's because we approached her or not. All our brain sees is here's the potential to feel hurt, and so I'm going to give you anxiety. Even if that very anxiety causes you to not approach the woman, and then you feel, oh, I'm a coward for not approaching her. Doesn't matter. Before or after, it doesn't matter. So that's an interesting feature of our subconscious mind. It doesn't look at the before or the after. It just links things together. Subconscious is a match for the outside world. Senses there could be pain because of that, gives you anxiety. So toxic shame affects codependency. We call it beta male thirst. If as a man we grew up, or as a boy we grew up and didn't get acceptance and love, especially from our mom, but could be in general, could be from dad or in general, being bullied, not being accepted by others, then we develop this subconscious not knowing how to love ourselves, gives ourselves acceptance, maybe feeling we're not worthy of love or acceptance unless an outside source gives that to us. That causes beta male thirst, needing love, especially from women. For a man to get validated by an attractive woman is very validating. That's the best type of validation out there for a man. So if we don't know how to validate ourselves, we don't feel we're enough, we don't feel good about ourselves, we have this thirst, this need for validation. I'll go into more about why we have that need a little bit later, but that can lead to this beta male thirst, general neediness, clinginess, loneliness, insecurity, all of that. After I cured my toxic shame and I got to the point where, hey, I'm great just as I am, I'm enough just as I am, that not only cured my manic depression, but I went maybe 2 or 3 years where I was kind of semi-hermit mode. I mean, I still went out a little bit and I still had friends, but much more, I worked out of my home. I still work out of my home. So was a lot less social, a lot more kind of doing my own thing, not lonely at all, just zero loneliness. And what we'll find is we feel loneliness when we don't know how to feel good for who we are. We don't know how to give ourselves love, validation, and provable, because toxic shame blocks that. Toxic shame is a belief we're not worthy of that. That leads to loneliness. But if we give ourselves that, we're lonely because we're used to other people giving that to us. And so we feel good when we're with others, with our friends, but we don't know how to give ourselves validation. So when we're by ourselves, we're lonely. We're not getting and we're like, I want to be my friends. They validate me. Well, once you know how to validate and approve yourself, you get rid of this toxic shame. I'm enough just as I am. I'm great just as I am. I have massive value just as I am. Loneliness, boom, gone. I had 2 or 3 years just not very I wasn't very social because I was like, man, I feel great. And not having that need and trying to figure that out. Well, why should I be social? I'm much more social now and figured out because it's fun to be social. You can network with people and have some, symbiotic relationships where you're benefiting each other. But that's that anxiety. Now, toxic shame, I was talking about it a little on the last slide, and we're going to go into this more, but if you have a feeling deep down in your core that I'm not good enough, that belief, the feeling tied to that belief is very painful. Anxiety, anytime our brain sees we are in a situation where that feeling can get triggered, can get intensified and brought to the surface where we feel it really intensely, that's very painful. So whenever we're in that situation, our brain will give us anxiety. Anxiety is a tool our brain uses to get us to avoid pain when it sees the potential for pain is present. So approach anxiety was one example. Maybe you have a task to do, a work task, and you're thinking, man, if I mess this up, it's going to confirm to me that I'm a loser, or others will yell at me, or I'll feel not good enough. I'll beat myself up, or I'll just feel like I'm a failure. I messed this up, or I didn't work hard enough. I was lazy. I put it off, and now I'm beating myself for not doing it. All your brain sees is potential for pain. Here's a performance task. If you mess it up, it's going to hurt, and then you're going to feel like a loser and a failure. It just sees that pain potential, gives you anxiety. That leads to procrastination. There's always a reason for procrastination. People say, oh, well, I just didn't want to do it. Okay, well, if you needed to do it, why didn't you just do it even though you didn't want to? Like maybe if it was just, yeah, you didn't want to, but why? Well, you didn't want to because you had anxiety, and that's your brain trying to get you to avoid pain. We have things that motivate us and demotivate us. The biggest motivator, our brain, motivates us to pursue pleasure. But the bigger program, the biggest demotivator, which is bigger than the drive to pursue pleasure, is the drive to avoid pain. All this anxiety that's given to us. That is our brain, because avoiding pain in ancient times kept us alive. That includes emotional pain. Shame kept us, avoiding shame kept us in the tribe, kept us from ticking off the chieftain and getting kicked out of the tribe. It facilitated our survival. We'll go into that later. But that's what anxiety is all about. Depression, trust me, I had depression in spades. I had extreme depression at one point. It was bipolar type 2, so mild manias, but they were great when they were there. Eventually, I would get tired out and then go back to depressed mode, extreme depression, really bad, literal pits of hell. And at the core of it was toxic shame. It wasn't just I'm not good enough. It's I'm bad, I'm sinful, I'm evil, I'm terrible, I loathe I hate myself. That's an extreme expression of toxic shame. There's a whole spectrum, but it's more or less I'm not good enough or I'm terrible, some version of that. At a core level, you feel that at a core level. That is the identity you feel you intrinsically have, your intrinsic value. So when you have that, that's going to lead to depression. It's going to lead to some people come to me apathetic, or they don't know what they want, feel lack of purpose. Well, at some point, these people knew what they wanted. Maybe as a kid, they knew what they wanted, but at some point they learned, I'm not good enough to get that. I can't have that because I don't deserve it. I'm not worthy of it. I'm not good enough to get it. Lack of purpose. So why even try? And that leads to apathy. Now, I said there's 3 types of toxic shame. We're basically covering all 3 here. First is I'm not good enough. Second, actually at the bottom, I don't feel connected to others. I don't fit in with others. I'm not the same as others. I'm not as good as others. What I feel inside doesn't match what I see on the outside of others. That's the second type of toxic shame. And then second from the bottom, third type of toxic shame. I cannot have what I want. What I want is bad. I don't have permission to get it. I don't deserve it, or I don't have the ability to get it. It's just not for me, or I want it, but I'm not able to get it because I'm not good enough, don't have the ability, and not able to develop the ability. Any version of that, your particular manifestation of toxic shame can be one of those things, or all of them, or 2 of those things I mentioned. But they're all in this general category of these 3 things, 3 types of toxic shame. I'm not good enough, can't get what I want, or don't deserve it, don't have permission, not able to get it. I don't fit in with others. Those are 3 types right there. Okay. So there's really ultimately, if you count those types of toxic shame, there's 3 types. For anyone who is not experiencing psychosis or doesn't have a personality disorder, cluster B. There's only 5 things wrong with the rest of us, and that is the overwhelming majority of people. 3 types of toxic shame. The next one, resentment and trapped anger. We just call it resentment. The final one is not feeling safe. Those 5 things are what 95% of people who struggle with. It's going to be that. The normal people who aren't schizophrenic, psychotic, etc. So there's always a good reason for resentment and rage. We may misapply that resentment and rage. We may lash out on those who don't deserve it, but there's always good reason that resentment, rage, anger is there. There has been an injustice, a betrayal, an unfairness, an abuse perpetrated against you, usually at an early age. And oftentimes, our subconscious mind is a static thing. Once you have a subconscious program in there, it's there all the time. You may not notice it all the time. Maybe it needs to get triggered, but it's there all the time. So if you have toxic shame as a core identity, normal shame is I did something bad. So if you don't do anything bad, no shame, you're cool. Toxic shame is I am bad. And, if you're like, I did something bad, but I know I'm an okay person, okay, that's normal shame. But if it's, I did something bad, that confirms to me, see, I really am bad. I suspected it all along, deep down. I was thinking I was bad. This confirms it. That's toxic shame. And that identity is there all the time. So a lot of times, this trapped anger is trapped. We can't let it go because someone abused us, gave us toxic shame, and because that toxic shame's there all the time, we can't let go of the anger until the shame goes. But also, a lot of times, we can't forgive ourselves if we're holding on to resentment towards others, and that keeps us from letting go of toxic shame. I always, if there is, sometimes there can be toxic shame without resentment. They're usually both there. But if there's anger, resentment there, I'm always going to deal with that in the same session with toxic shame because they really are close. They're totally different feelings, but they're closely linked. Inner rage may cause us to lash out on others, especially if we're unable to. A lot of people don't want to face what's in them, this traumatic stuff, and that will lead them to, if they deny that they feel bad about themselves, they'll project it out onto others. They'll see the bad in others. Maybe lash out on those other people who really aren't bad and don't deserve it. And maybe that's, you had a parent who was deeply traumatized and he lashed out at you. He or she lashed out at you because they were hurting inside. They had a ton of toxic shame and didn't know how to face it or were not willing to face it. So the interesting thing about how our mind works, we forgive others and we automatically become more forgiving of ourselves, more kind to ourselves. So reason we wanted to let go of resentment, shame, well, toxic shame, we just feel better because we realize we have value when we let go of our toxic shame. Letting go of anger, resentment, first of all, anger and resentment doesn't feel good. It's bitter. Bitter is not good. Bitter is a bad taste and a bad feeling. But if we let that go, we're not only kinder to others now, we're also kinder to ourselves. Forgiveness is about letting stuff go. It's about clearing bad crap out of you, stuff that's hurting you. So if you want to know just the overall blueprint to how I help people, and I have massive success helping people, I'm going to start uploading testimonials. I've had people one session change their life forever, and that is not uncommon for me. It happens all the time, honestly. Most people get a permanent, noticeable benefit one session. I'm not going to say everyone because some people are disconnected from their feelings, but letting the secret to, or the overall blueprint to what I do is you take all this traumatic stuff, the 5 things wrong with us that are hurting us, these subconscious belief systems, You clear it out and you replace it with good stuff. In a nutshell, that's what we do. Now, the how do you do it is, of course, you got to dive down the rabbit hole for that. But this is just one more traumatic subconscious belief, subconscious program. Subconscious beliefs and programs have emotions tied to them. All these, we call these traumatic subconscious programs or bad subconscious programs. You can call them limiting beliefs, false core identities, different descriptions, but these are all subconscious beliefs that do not serve us. They make us miserable. They do way more harm than good. That's why we're getting that out of us and replacing it with good stuff. There are always feelings, there are feelings associated with these subconscious programs. And when you feel the feeling tied to the program, you are connected to the program, which is a big key to getting rid of it. If I can't get people connected to this stuff, they can't get rid of it. So we need you to get connected to this. So this is why we let go of, we know what resentment is, we know what anger is, but the reason it's trapped is because our subconscious is static. So if it's in the form of a subconscious program, the message, the belief is life isn't fair. People are, I was abused growing up, and therefore I view people in general as abusive and going to betray me. And honestly, a lot of people are like that, but there's a lot of people that are good people too. But if this is in us, we may think all people are like that. We may see this injustice and just have this resentment. Maybe it's sometimes we barely feel it or don't feel it, but something happens, we get triggered and it brings it to the surface. So you can have resentment and trapped anger stuck in your subconscious, tied to a subconscious belief that the world's unjust or I've been wronged, and have that bitterness in you. We got to get that out. So the number one way to do that is what's called Gestalt, which is in hypnotherapy. You have a conversation out loud. You say it out loud towards the person who wronged you, and then you become the person who wronged you and respond and go back and forth. But that can be extremely effective in letting this go. And I've had people have massive abuse. One session cleared it out forever. All their anger, all their rage, like 99%, they got rid of one session forever. Massive rage, massive abuse they went through. There are other treatment beyond that is connecting to that pain, that rage. Now, of course, you have to be willing to let this go. You have to understand it's not serving you, want to send it away. I can't make you send it away in hypnotherapy. You have to choose to. But many people are angry and they don't want to be angry. It's like, okay, you've been abused. Of course you want to be happy, but this stuff is trapped in you. Well, hypnotherapy is a way, the Gestalt, and then this other method, it's a way to release it where you otherwise can't, and permanently release it. So if we get you connecting to this resentment, rage, bitterness, in hypnosis, we can use symbolic imagery after you connect it to it to say, hey, subconscious mind, send this away. Symbolic imagery is a language your subconscious mind naturally understands. You dream oftentimes in symbolic imagery. Your dreams are your subconscious mind interpreting what's going on in your life and how your subconscious interprets it. What does this mean? That's how our subconscious works. Our subconscious scans the world around us and interprets, what does it mean? Now, as adults, it just links back to the original interpretation. Okay, this thing happened in the outside world. I'm going to link that back to the original program, my original belief or interpretation as a child as to what that means. But that's really what our subconscious does. So symbolic imagery, it's our subconscious is all about pattern recognition. When we dream, that is a native language. That is our subconscious processing and talking. So symbolic imagery is native to that. So we can, if we are connected to these bad subconscious programs, symbolic imagery is a natural language your subconscious understands to send things away. So those are two methods I use. Very, very super effective. So awesome. Anxiety, talked about a little bit earlier. I'll go over it again. Toxic shame is not the only thing that causes anxiety. So I looked at it in the context of toxic shame, but any situation where our brain sees potential for pain, we're going to get anxiety or fear or dread or something along those lines That's our brain's attempt to get us to avoid those situations. So this last one here, you know, I have some reasons. If the girl rejected me, it means I'm not good enough. That feels terrible. So I want to avoid that pain. So I get approach anxiety. Now I don't want to approach attractive girls. If I fail at tasks at work, that means I'm terrible. I'm not good enough. That hurts. So now I procrastinate work tasks. Those are tied to toxic shame. This third one here, if I don't get this job, I can't pay my bills. That's tied to the final of the 5, you know, painful subconscious programs, underlying belief systems, which is I don't feel safe. If I don't get this job, then I can't survive because I can't pay my bills. At least that's a belief. You know, the truth is, you don't get this job, maybe you move in with your parents for a while. I had to do that around 29. I had to move in with my parents for like a year and a half, 2 years. So I couldn't pay my bills, still, you know, alive. Or, you know, people become homeless, but they survive. It's definitely more dangerous becoming homeless, but you probably still survive. But this is still not feeling safe. It's tied to survival. So you can have anxiety around survival stuff, not just, oh, I'm in a situation where if I fail to trigger my toxic shame, anything that could cause you pain because not surviving, or being hungry because you can't eat. Yeah, that's painful. So yeah, you'll get anxiety, fear about that too. I would say fear is about physical pain. Anxiety is more about wanting to avoid emotional pain of some sort. Fear is more like an immediate physical threat. So if I can't pay my bills, that's more of, you know, in the future, and not really, hey, someone's about to chop my head off. It's, I can't pay my bills and then I can't eat. So that would be more anxiety. How do we get rid of anxiety? Well, there are some things where we're going to have anxiety no matter what. But for many people who have a ton of anxiety, toxic shame is at the root of it. You get rid of the underlying toxic shame, and then there's no more pain. Meaning, if you have a deep down belief, I'm not good enough, that gets triggered with anything in the outside world that confirms that is indeed true. That girl rejecting you, you were supposed to do this thing at work and you made a mistake. You know, it's a very complicated task. You made one mistake and now you have got to do it again. Now you feel like, oh, I'm a loser. I messed it up. That's a trigger. It's a trigger of toxic shame that's in you. If the toxic shame is not in you, there's nothing to trigger. So you don't feel there, believe it or not, there's guys that approach women all the time and the girl rejects them and they feel very little to no pain. They're just like, up, on to the next one. You know, that's cool. She just wasn't for me, you know? And so their anxiety is very low, especially if they do it a lot and they're used to doing it. So there's no toxic, they approach a woman. She says, sorry, I have a boyfriend. They don't feel like a loser because they don't have toxic shame down in their core. So you get this out of your core, there's nothing to be triggered. And then you don't have the anxiety around these situations. Now, there are healthy reasons for anxiety. Our brain, anytime we're in something unfamiliar, we'll get at least a little anxiety because our brain motivates us towards that which is familiar and comfortable, motivates us away from that which is unfamiliar. It's uncomfortable. So the phrase, getting out of your comfort zone. In the past, in caveman times where most of our evolution took place, unfamiliar stuff can get us killed. Oh, I haven't seen this berry before. Turns out it's poisonous. Well, the berry you ate before that never killed you and nourished you, okay, that's familiar. So I'm comfortable with that. This new berry, geez, I don't know, you know. Or this new lake, well, the other lake, there are no crocodiles in it. I always drank from there. It's cool. This new lake, unfamiliar, maybe you drink from it, the crocodile kills you. So that's how we've evolved. Unfamiliar stuff, you're going to feel a little anxiety. That's just how it is. Guess what? You push through it, you make it familiar, that anxiety's gone. But honestly, when people come to me and have like massive crippling anxiety, it's pretty much always toxic shame. Pretty much always toxic shame. That is behind the really big anxiety. So get rid of the toxic shame and your anxiety goes way down. Origins of toxic shame. I've been kind of skipping around content as I've been explaining this. It's based on our evolution. There is an evolutionary reason for it. So I'm going to talk to you about why toxic shame develops, the origins of it, and in ancient times, what purpose it served, which really doesn't serve us now at all. So you don't want toxic shame at all now. In the past, it kept us alive, but here we go. So we have two programs that are automatic in relation to our parents. Now, when we're born, our brains know hardly anything. We have instinct. We know how to pee, poo, laugh, cry. That's about it. We have some other instinct-based evolutionary psychological programs, but we know very little. But this is an instinct-based program. We don't have a lot of them, but we do have a few. So the instinct-based program is we idealize our parents. Now, maybe later on you hate your parents, but when you're a baby and a toddler and a young child, you love and you idealize your parents. It's like a fish growing up in a dirty pond. You don't even know what's right and wrong. You don't even realize the pond's dirty. It's all you've ever known as a child. So you don't know, oh, my dad's a psychopath. You don't know that. He's the only dad you know. You have no point of reference. So as babies and children, we choose to idealize our parents because we want to believe that they are able to take care of us. We know as children, if someone doesn't take care of us, we are screwed. We will die. We know we don't know where to get food. We know, hey, if you're left out in the middle of nowhere, what are you going to do? So we need parents to take care of us. So we have a need, and we have evolved to idealize them so that we feel they are able to take care of us. Even if they're not, we choose to feel that way. So we idealize them. My parents are wise, strong, benevolent. They are able and capable to take care of me. The importance of this becomes clear shortly. Second thing is, they're able to take care of us, but we need to feel that they want to take care of us, because even if they're able to, but they don't want to, then they can abandon us and we die. So these two beliefs it's survival-based evolutionary psychology. So as children, we need to feel they want to take care of us. And if we feel that they don't want us, or they disapprove of us, or they don't value us, or we're a burden, or they're constantly criticizing us, they're beating us, they're doing things that lead us to believe they don't want us, we are actually going to try harder to get their attention or to please them and help them to accept us and love us. Because if they do accept us and love us and we get that feedback, now we feel safe, because they're like, hey, they're not going to abandon me because they want me. And this is a survival program. If your parents don't want you, you try to make them want you, so then won't abandon you. Well, what happens is we don't realize as kids, oh, my mom has BPD, my dad's an alcoholic, or they just have to work super hard. They're not around because they're working so hard just to pay the bills. But what we see as children is, why is mom and dad not around? Oh, they must not want me. That's our interpretation. It's not reality that forms our subconscious programs and our beliefs about ourselves. It's as a child how we interpret what's happening to us that forms this toxic shame, these bad subconscious programs. So if we feel, oh, my parents treat me like I'm a burden, or they treat me like they don't want me, or they're mad at me all the time, or they beat me, or they maybe they give you confusing messages. They love you one moment and then they hate you the next. That can happen with BPD, for example. Well, as children, we can't face that, well, they're messed up, because we idealize them. That's the first program. We idealize them. So it's not them. So there must be something we can do to get them to want us and love us. But if we try and try and try, no matter what, they still don't want us. They still treat us like we're a burden, or they beat us, or they criticize us, or call us names, or whatever. Give it that message, or we try and it never seems like they're happy with us. They don't praise us. They only criticize, no affection, whatever it may be. And we've tried to get that so that we feel that they approve of us, love us. We tried everything. They're still acting this way, treating us like they don't like us. They don't want us, don't love us. At some point we say, man, I've tried everything. It must be I really am not good enough. It must be they don't love me because I'm not worthy of love. They don't want me because I'm not worth wanting. I have low value or no value, or, they're disgusted with me. Maybe I'm disgusting. So when we adopt this belief that it must be me because I've tried everything and it's not them because I choose to idealize them because I need to feel they're able to take care of me and so I can survive, this is the core of toxic shame. And I'm explaining this because when you go back to the origin in your childhood of why, and it may not be your parents that made you feel this way, but 95% of the time, they're the biggest contributor. There can be other contributors for sure, but even if you didn't know them, well, why did my parents not love me enough to raise me? I knew someone who was adopted and his adoptive parents were good to him, but he had toxic shame because all of his life, he's like, why didn't my real mom and dad want me? Even that. So the evolutionary purpose for toxic shame is in these tribes. We've always had hierarchies in human civilization. There's bosses, presidents, CEOs. There's always been, you look at military, there's the general and then a whole chain of command down there, a hierarchy. Hierarchies happen in nature all the time. They're in nature. You look at the apes, you got the silverback and then the smaller ones. So when we are children, we don't know anything and we're observing, our subconscious observing everything in the world around us, trying to figure this stuff out. One of the things it's trying to figure out is, where do I fit in the hierarchy? What's my value? Now, if you're this little, small, scrawny, I know placeholder term, but beta male, and you're in the tribe, and you go up against the alpha male to try and get his mate, well, guess what? Alpha male kills you, now you're dead. So we have evolved psychologically to survive. And for people who are taught in the tribe when they're younger that you are lower in the hierarchy, the toxic shame keeps you small, so you don't challenge the higher ups and they don't kill you. So that's a survival program. And some of these, lower downs were still able to, sneak some sex in and manage to reproduce. So, you can't, maybe they have a much lower chance of reproducing than the alphas, but at least they have some chance as long as they don't challenge them. That's what toxic shame does, is it keeps people small. In our society, there's no alpha male that'll kill you if you start kicking ass in life. You just kick ass in life. So, and plus, toxic shame causes just alcoholism, drug addiction. It's so painful to feel this toxic shame that I'm no good, and people don't know how to clear this out. So they do everything they can to numb it out so they don't feel it, the alcohol, or they're just depressed, but some people just shut down their feelings. So they don't, you shut down the feelings so you don't feel the shame, but now you can't feel compassion. You can't feel love. You can't feel like the good things when you shut down emotions, but there's all these mechanisms trying to numb this out. Eating comfort food, binge watching TV. Well, I occasionally binge watch, but it's not for toxic shame. A lot of people do it for toxic shame. It's just, come on, Breaking Bad. You got to binge watch it, right? So there's no reason for it now, but it causes so many problems, so much depression, anxiety, or guys, just men, women, both. I mean, women have massive toxic shame, just like men. It affects everyone. You hold back. You don't kick it. My income is triple what it used to be. When I cleared my toxic shame, within a few years, my income was double or nearly double within like 3 years. It just went up and up, and then it's like twice as much because I didn't have toxic shame holding me back. Now it's 3 times what it used to be. And I was doing pretty good before, but I still had toxic shame holding me back. You get rid of the number one way to become successful. If you have any toxic shame, get rid of it. And it won't be holding you back. Our subconscious dictates 95% of what we do. So get rid of that. This is all subconscious stuff. Subconscious is your feelings, your instinct, your intuition. Your subconscious interprets something that means something and gives you the emotion tied to that interpretation. That's what it is. So how do you heal it in your subconscious? These are, toxic shame. I'm not good enough. It's a core belief. You feel it deep down. You try and run away from it because it's painful. You try to like not acknowledge it, but it gets triggered. This stuff keeps getting triggered. Like resentful, angry people keep getting pissed off, or, have a chip on their shoulder, because they were abused, or there's some betrayal or unfairness or injustice against them that's permanently affected them, so they can't let it go, or they believe it's permanently affected them because they don't know how to get rid of their toxic shame. It's just there, and they're like, they have no way to get rid of it. So that resentment over being trapped in this cage of shame is there as well, oftentimes tied to the person who gave you the toxic shame. Oftentimes their parents, not always. So all of this stuff, when you feel feelings, especially if there's a pattern tied to it, it's a subconscious program. Bad subconscious program is if it's hurting you, not serving you, and holding you back and painful. So this is our second brain. You can Google our second brain. Our emotions are actually stored in our body because there are neurons outside of our head that process emotion. You get a gut instinct, guess what? That's your second brain. There's neurons processing data and giving you intuition, a gut instinct, and they're located in your gut. A lot of times we feel stuff in our heart because there are neurons there that process that type of emotion. There's nerves and neurons all throughout our body, and they are not just communicating pain or feelings, but they can also process. Although there's definitely, of course, there's a concentration in the brain on our head, but in our torso, there's a big mass of nerves and neurons that process all this stuff, and we feel a lot of emotions there. You can feel emotions in other parts of your body too, though, but a lot of it's there, most of it. When people go to normal psychotherapists, now I'm not going to say there's never a reason to go to a psychotherapist. I think they can be helpful. So, in fact, if you're struggling with stuff, try out hypnotherapy. Go to a psychotherapist too. Try different things out. And if something doesn't work, well, it didn't work. On to the next thing. But the more things you try out, the more you're going to learn, and the more effective stuff. You may find part of your solution in one methodology and the rest in another methodology, but the big weakness of psychotherapy, cognitive behavioral therapy is the standard for psychotherapy, is it's cognitive. They're working with your brain. They're not working on the subconscious directly. And your subconscious is the root of 95% of your behaviors. It's all your emotions are there. They're trying to use your analytical 2 + 2 = 4 mind to resolve subconscious programs. It's very ineffective. Everything's connected. Your conscious is connected to your subconscious. So over time, you can resolve some things. I did resolve a lot of my, about 60, my manic depression was very bad. I did resolve about 60% of it through normal psychotherapy, but it took 15 years. And really after probably 10 years, it wasn't helping anymore. There was a huge chunk psychotherapy could never touch. That hypnotherapy cured in like a month or two. I mean, hypnotherapy. So hypnotherapy goes right to the source. Hypnotherapy works when it's done right. It works directly on your subconscious mind. It directly reprograms these. It clears out this bad traumatic stuff and replaces it with healthy programs that lead you to be happy and successful. It's the most effective. Meditation is great, but hypnotherapy is like going in and doing surgery or actually repairing stuff. Meditation is kind of more of a clearing. It's kind of like more like defragmenting a hard drive. When you're in a meditative state, you're really just like being hypnotized. You're in a very relaxed trance-like state. You're still conscious. That's meditation. Hypnosis, same thing. But the techniques we use in hypnotherapy are much more aimed at, let's get to this stuff that's really hurting you and get it out and replace it with good stuff and modify subconscious, behaviors. But most importantly, these core identities and subconscious programs. That's what hypnotherapy does. Meditation, defragmenting your hard drive. Neurolinguistic programming, it is accessing your subconscious, but your brain waves aren't lowered for, typical normal neurolinguistic programming. You're not in the state to be as receptive as possible. But, NLP, I know NLP guys, and what they do is effective for what it is. It can be very effective. But again, hypnotherapy is about getting this really bad, harmful, painful subconscious programs out. And it's just the most direct way to do it, most effective when you do it right. And so that's why I do it. All of this stuff I'm telling you about, I do it because it works. I do it because day in, day out, I see so many people's lives quickly and massively change. Now, I'm not going to say, again, I don't give any guarantees. I'm not saying it's like that for 100% of people, but my experience on myself and the vast majority of people that come to me is very, very effective and works way quicker than any of this other stuff. So I was saying earlier, you want to get the bad out, this toxic shame, this anger, resentment, not feeling safe. The not feeling safe, I encounter less common, but I still encounter it a lot. So we get that stuff out and we replace it with the good. Get the bad out, put the good into your subconscious. You replace toxic shame with positive core identity, confidence. It's a static program. This is just deep down in you all the time. There are things that can trigger it, but it's always there. And it's a feeling, hey, I'm like a diamond. I don't need to do anything. I just have value for what I am. I have massive value. For men, the true alpha males, super confident, and they feel they have massive value. And when you feel you have massive value, actually do the things that are a match for that, which means you become a high value guy. High value guys have massive confidence. People think, oh, they have confidence because they're high value. No, they're high value because they have confidence. You get your inner world right, the outer world follows. I know that from personal experience, but I've seen so many examples of people that's happened for. Watch the documentary Tyson. You can get on Amazon Prime Video. It's like $7 or $8. The first, 20 minutes, Mike Tyson is talking about his coach, Cus D'Amato. Watch on YouTube, watch Cus D'Amato, The Philosopher's Mindset, how he trained. It's 27 minutes. He trained Mike Tyson. He started out with telling Mike, you're the greatest, you're the best of all time. Cus D'Amato did hypnosis on Mike Tyson to put in this core belief, Mike Tyson, you are a champion, you're the greatest of all time. When he was 12, not when he was a champion, but when he was 12, he gave that confidence to Mike Tyson, and that is what propelled Mike Tyson to work and work and work till he became the champion. So when you believe in yourself that you have massive value, you believe at a core level, not I'm standing in front of the mirror, I'm saying these affirmations, but deep down, I don't really believe it. I'm saying I'm awesome. It kind of rings hollow. No, we're getting it in you where you say you're awesome. And then you're like, yeah, I really am awesome because you believe that in your core. Well, that's what we want to replace toxic shame. Unconditional self-love, unconditional approval, validation. If you fail, it doesn't have any effect on your value. Failure is a learning tool. The people who fail the most are the people who try the most. Guess what? Those are the people that ultimately get the best success. We're going to look at Thomas Edison later on. Thomas Edison, the quote says 10,000, but you really, I'll show you the quote later on. He tried 1,000 times before he was successful with the light bulb. He was a rock star and tried 999, just as much a rock star as his first success. Because he was a guy he was a type of man to bring this to the world, to persist and fail and keep on going. His failures did not reduce his value. So we believe that. And if you believe that, you'll be like Thomas Edison. You fail and you keep going until you're successful. Because the failure is not a match for what's in you. I failed, therefore I'm a loser. That's not a match. What's a match is I'm awesome. And so you're driven to make your outside world match how you feel on the inside. So this leads to confidence, developing skills. You think, yeah, I am worth being, I can be a millionaire. So you go out and do stuff that makes you a millionaire, and now you're a millionaire. You can be very confident in some things and not confident in other things. Good example, Rush Limbaugh, supreme confidence on the air, off the air, typically quiet, awkward, withdrawn. But on his show, he's massively confident. Robin Williams also on the stage, just, knew he was great at it. He absolutely loved it, but, struggled with stuff when he wasn't on the stage in a lot of different ways. So we're going to later talk about, you can have just a general underlying toxic shame, like in general, or positive core identity in general, but there can also be context specific toxic shame, context specific. So for example, like when I had depression, I still was like, well, I'm a smart guy, and I've always been a smart guy, and because I was always told that, and it's true, I am a smart guy. So there were certain things where it's like, oh yeah, I'm a piece of crap, but I am good at this. I do have a good core identity about, oh yeah, computers, I'm good at using computers, but you can still in general feel your overall values low or high. And then have context specific toxic shame or positive core beliefs in certain contexts. And so this, I know this looks like a lot of Greek, but this explains, if everyone on this planet understood what this meant, then mental illness would be 95% gone if people understood how this worked and incorporated this into their life. Depression would be almost 100% gone. General anxiety disorder, almost 100% gone. Psychotherapy and psychiatry would be doing a lot less business, because this is understanding this is the key to healing your subconscious, where 95% of our painful emotions are. So let's start at the bottom and move up. Subconscious mind. It processes 40,000 bits per second. Look at the conscious above it, 40 bits per second. Subconscious mind, literally 1,000 times more powerful, more processing power than our conscious mind. Our emotions, our intuition, our instinct come from our subconscious. Subconscious, no sense of time. The programs there are static. They just are. Cognitive processing is in our conscious mind. We are time aware in our conscious mind. But the supercomputer is our subconscious. And I was talking earlier, you can have a core identity belief. I'm no good. I'm never good enough in general. But you can have context specific stuff too. Oh, I'm good at compute. I'm a genius at computers. I'm just lousy everywhere else. Or you could have a pause. You could feel really good about yourself, but then be struggling financially. Oh man, I'm great with women. Oh man, I'm an awesome person, but man, I'm always broke. That could be a subconscious program. I'm not good enough for an ideal woman, but then you are kicking butt in every other part of your life, or at least doing pretty good. But this one thing's really holding you back. So it can be, and that's, I'm not good enough for a woman. I'm not good enough. That is a subconscious program. Money is scarce and hard to get. Which one is that? Is I can't get what I want. I don't deserve it. I'm not allowed to have it. I don't have the ability to get it. Can be. So there can be an overriding overall, I'm not good enough. And then above that is some context specific, and it can be good or bad. So the one video you want to watch is Arnold Schwarzenegger, Pumping is Better Than Coming. It's on YouTube. Just type it in, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Pumping is Better Than Coming, Cumming. Yes, he's talking about ejaculation, but he is illustrating, and he is doing an awesome job of illustrating a core concept here, which is Arnold's core belief. He was Mr. Olympia, I believe, 5 times, and Mr. Universe like twice or something like that. Arnold's core belief is, I am the greatest bodybuilder of all times. I'm awesome. I'm amazing. So if you have toxic shame, and if anything in the outside observable world is a match for what's in your subconscious, that I'm not good enough, then anytime something confirms, yes, you're not good enough, look, you failed here, or this girl rejected you, the feeling tied with that belief deep in your subconscious, which is painful if it's toxic shame, it gets triggered by the outside world and it comes to the surface, and then you feel terrible. One time I left my dog in the car for 15 minutes, and when I came out, the cops were there and they arrested me. I slept for 2 days because I was still depressed, because it confirmed, see, you're no good scumbag. You left your dog in the car and the cops found out, and see, you really are a piece of trash. So I couldn't get out of bed for 2 days. It really triggered that bad toxic shame in me. But Arnold has the opposite. Arnold is, I'm the greatest of all time, the greatest bodybuilder ever. So anytime he does something that confirms that, yes, indeed, this subconscious core identity that you're the greatest bodybuilder of all times, anytime he did something to confirm that, well, what kind of feeling is tied to that belief? Well, it's amazing. It feels amazing to be the greatest bodybuilder of all time and have massive value. So anytime he lifts weights, watch the video. Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's on YouTube. Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's like a minute long. Arnold Schwarzenegger, pumping is better than coming. Anytime he lifted weights, anytime he posed in front of others, did a competition, posed in front of the crowd, it spiked the feeling tied to that core belief, I'm amazing, and hence you get the video, pumping is better than coming. Every time I work out, it's better than coming, because it is triggering this awesome core identity. And this is why, if you believe, like Mike Tyson was taught to believe, that I'm the greatest of all time, I'm awesome, I have massive value. If you believe that deep down at your core, our brain is designed to avoid pain and pursue pleasure. It motivates us towards pleasure. So anytime you do something that affirms, I indeed am awesome, it's pleasurable. Well, guess what? Now your brain is motivating you to do things that confirms I'm indeed awesome. So you do awesome things. Yeah, I don't know, you cure cancer, or you make $1 million, or you are very successful getting a very attractive woman as your significant other, or just maybe you got 10 of them in your roster, or whatever it may be that confirms that, oh, I'm awesome. You pursue that, and then you do great things, and then everyone else is like, look at this guy, he's rich, he's very charismatic, everyone likes him. Well, it's because he's extremely hardworking and therefore very successful because of that. Not just hardworking, but working at stuff that doesn't earn you $20 an hour, but working at stuff that makes you a multimillionaire, for example, because you believe you can do it. Most people aren't multimillionaires because they don't believe it. They don't believe in themselves that that's for them. I'm not saying you have to become a multimillionaire to have value. I'm just talking about the belief systems here. So getting these good programs, moving the bad programs make you avoid doing anything you could fail at. You procrastinate. You don't approach that girl. Approach anxiety. It keeps you small, keeps you, and then you overeat to comfort food, and extremely easy to do now in America in modern times. So you end up as this overweight guy that zones out, just by example. I know there's many manifestations of this overweight guy that zones out, watches way too much TV, goes to work, come home, zones out, too much alcohol, etc. Everything to run away from triggering that bad belief. Where if you have a good belief in your core that I'm amazing, I have amazing value, now you're doing all this stuff to trigger this good belief because it feels great, and our brain is designed to avoid pain, pursue pleasure. So the number one thing you can do above all to become a successful, happy person is get rid of the toxic shame and put in a massively awesome core identity that I have massive value just for who I am. That's what gets triggered. You're now pursuing pleasure, which leads you to work hard to get this core identity triggered more, and you accomplish more. Now you're not in a downward spiral, you're on an upward spiral. External things in the outside world trigger what is inside you. And if that's a pleasurable thing, we chase that and get it in the outside world. Our subconscious mind is a supercomputer. It notices. So on this top here, the observable world on the top, you see external things observed by conscious and subconscious is a smaller area than external things observed by the subconscious. Have you ever gotten a gut feeling? You're like, I have no idea why I have this gut feeling. Why do I feel this way? Turns out your gut is right. And your conscious mind was like, this is dumb. Why do I feel this way? There's nothing here. And then something happens. You're like, oh, my gut was trying to tell me something. Because that gut feeling came from your subconscious. It noticed something in your outside world that your conscious mind didn't notice at all. Get this supercomputer working for you, not against you. You got toxic shame, anger, resentment, feeling unsafe constantly. You got that in your subconscious. That is going to hold you back. You put in the good stuff, and now you are kicking ass in life. This is the number one thing. And, you know, I'm not saying income is everything, but my income's way higher. It's way higher when I did this, and overall way happier. I'm way more successful with women. Um, you know, and I'm not even saying I still got stuff to clear, but I've cleared a lot to have enough to you know, have a massive outward improvement, and things just keep getting better and better, man. I mean, the more you clear, things just keep on getting better and better for you. If you want to know any key to unlocking the human soul, this is it, baby, right here. Yeah. So subconscious searches, it looks for patterns. See something in the outside world that's a pattern for, you know, as a child. Oh, my mom and dad keep telling me I'm no good because they keep criticizing me or they beat me. And I've tried everything to make them happy. It doesn't work. I must, or, you know, my dad gives me tasks and he, no matter how hard I try, he always points out something wrong with it. So I must not be good enough. That is that subconscious belief or program forms in childhood based on how we interpret things in our childhood. Now, when we go through the world as adults, our subconscious sees anything that is a match for what's inside us, it spikes that inner feeling. And if you journal out what you struggle with, like if you talk, I talk to people for 2 hours in general, before I do my first session with them. And we figure this all out. And they constantly like, oh man, I never looked at it that way. Oh my God, you're totally right. I didn't realize that. I see this time and time and time and time again. I mean, it's just how it is. It's just, once your eyes are open to this and you see the application of this, if you had my job where you're constantly talking to other people and applying this, mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. And the changes you see in people when you get that bad core identity, these bad subconscious programs out, replace it with good stuff. It's freaking awesome. Feels like a superpower, honestly. Maybe it is. Positive core identity traits: happier, more optimistic. You value yourself. You know you have value. You trust your abilities. No one has this 100%. I don't have this 100%, but I will say I'm way more confident than I used to. I'm authentic. I'm just who I am. It's so cool. Before, you know, it's like, oh, what do I have to do? You know, and you know, it's like I wouldn't let the real me show right away. Every now and then I'll hold back, but you know, it's way easier to be authentic when you realize the real authentic you has value. Just comes naturally. Less hesitant to take risks. Now, I'm not going to say, you know, again, this, some people have this at massive amount, you know. The thing for me is, I was raised in a home where I was constantly told one way or another, a lot of times through covert psychological manipulation, that I was no good because, you know, that's my background. That's my childhood. My greatest thing is that I'm not saying I'm perfect at this, but I'm massively happier. I'd say 99% of my toxic chain is gone, like totally gone. I got rid of most of it a long time ago. Not saying I'm 100%. Most people aren't going to be 100%, but man, you can get so much farther away, farther ahead in life. I'm not saying life is just automatically becomes easy. Stuff is still hard, but you just have more strength and determination and optimism to overcome hard things. You bounce back more. You're more resilient. Sometimes risks are not worth taking. So I guess we should say you're much less hesitant to take risks if they're worth taking. Our judgment becomes a lot better when we clear out all this crap inside of us, and go inward. Going inward, clearing the crap out gets rid of bad noise in us, and then we get more connected to our internal world, and it makes us a much better judge. We make much better decisions. I'm not saying it's perfect decisions, but everything just gets better. When we feel that we're good enough, then we're worth standing up for because we're worth something. So we have strong boundaries. Fear is balance. Again, fear sometimes serves us. Sometimes it keeps us alive. You know, I'm afraid of jumping off of cliffs. Well, that keeps me alive. You know, failure If you feel you have value regardless, now you're not afraid to fail, because failing doesn't mean you're a loser. It doesn't detract from your value. So that means you're willing to risk failure more. And the more you try, yeah, you fail more, but then you succeed a lot more. And it's really it's more important to succeed more, even if it means you fail a lot more, generally speaking. Generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, trying more, even if it means failing more, doesn't matter, because you're succeeding more, and it's the successes that count most of the time. 0 F's given. So if you already give yourself all the approval, love, validation you need, and you feel complete in that respect, then you don't need validation of others. You can just be your real authentic self. You can say what you really want to say. If you hold back, it's because you're being diplomatic or strategic. It doesn't come from a point of you're not brave enough, or, oh, I fear losing their approval. You don't care. You're like, if they don't approve me, well, that's, I'd like for them to approve me, but if they don't, it's no big deal. And again, I'm speaking in generalities, but generally this is a 0 F's given attitude. Hey, I am who I am. I know I have value. So here's what I think. If you don't approve, it's okay. I got enough approval. I give to myself. I don't need yours. That is what is behind. This is very alpha. Pause. How does you think President Trump's an alpha male? Of course he's an alpha male. He's a billionaire. He's a president. How highly does he think of himself? How highly does Mike Tyson think of himself? Watch Snoop Dogg. Is Snoop Dogg alpha? Of course he's alpha. Snoop Dogg is super alpha. He has the king of alpha attitude is Snoop Dogg. Watch on YouTube. Type in Snoop Dogg, I want to thank me. There might be a 1-minute clip. If so, watch the whole thing. If you see in a 4.5-minute clip, don't watch the music. You can watch the music video, but that's not it. But there's a 4.5-minute, he's giving an acceptance speech because he got his Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. And a minute from the end of that 4.5-minute clip, he talks about, I want to thank me. And he's validating self. He's giving himself approval. And he's showing you that I think very highly of myself. It's no coincidence that these alpha males feel that way, and that they're also at the top of their game, at the top of society. That's what this leads people to do. They get ahead. They realize their value. They start kicking ass. Their internal world is right. I've seen it in my life. So I'm good enough and I have value, but failure is no problem because I'm just practicing. You learn to play guitar, you slaughter the song the first time. You feel like, oh, I'm a terrible person because I slaughter the song. No, I'm only practicing. So these are the specific belief systems I put in people in hypnotherapy. The more I practice, the better I get, just like playing guitar. The more people know, we understand in our society, hey, I just got to play this guitar more. The more I play it, yeah, I'm going to get there. I'm going to get pretty good. Some mistakes in the meantime, no big deal. That's just part of learning and growing. I'm just practicing. Failure is a learning opportunity. Thomas Edison, I have not failed. I just found 10,000 ways it won't work. That's his quote. It was really 1,000. The quote I find says 10,000, but he tried 1,000 times approximately before he successfully treated the light bulb. If he had toxic shame, then each failure would have made him feel terrible. It would have triggered his toxic shame. He didn't have toxic shame. He was like, I'm bound to be successful. When you have that mindset, you just keep going because there's no pain to avoid. You're chasing the pleasure and there's no pain to make you give up. It's too hard. No. So those failures, no big deal. He kept on going. I haven't really failed. I've just learned. Practicing, learning, and growing. Failure has zero effect on my value. Was Thomas Edison worth any less as a person? The type of man he was it any different on try 999 when he failed his 999 failure? One more try, he succeeded. Was he the same man? Yeah, he was the same man. He was the man that it's not like his IQ was 100 and it jumped to 200 on it, and now he's a genius on try 1000. No, he always had value. It was just a matter of time when the outside world caught up with his belief system that I had value, that I'm going to change the world. That's what he believed inside. You get this in you and great things happen on it. Eventually the outside world catches up. So cool. This is a key to unlocking the human soul. Trust me. Try it. At least try it. I have tremendous value to others, regardless of where they perceive it. Hey, other people can be dumb sometimes. They're just people. You know, doesn't mean others don't see your value. Doesn't mean you don't have it. They see you, you know, on the street for a second, or they know you for a week. That's not enough to judge your true value. And they have their own trauma and their own stuff they're projecting onto others. How they view you could have absolutely nothing to do with you at all whatsoever. It can have more to do with them and what they're struggling with. But even if they're not struggling with stuff, they have a very limited perception of you. So if you have tremendous value to yourself and to others, and if they don't see it, that's their blindness, that's their limitation. Doesn't have to do anything with your value. Subconscious mind. Hypnosis works because a relaxed state, it lowers the frequency of your brain waves, which brings your subconscious to the forefront. You're still awake in hypnosis, but we quiet down your conscious mind. And by doing that, your conscious mind doesn't interfere because it's quieted down. You're still awake. In sessions, I am giving people instructions to say things, imagine things. They're following my instructions. They're saying stuff. I'm asking them questions. They're giving me answers. They remember the whole session. They're in control the whole time. It's not brain control. That's stupid Hollywood BS. So you're just in a very relaxed state or trance, like a meditation. And now your subconscious mind is malleable, where we can go in and reprogram stuff. And that's exactly what we do. Our subconscious mind does follow its own set of rules. No concept of time. Your feelings are closer to the surface when your subconscious is closer to the surface, as it is in hypnosis, because your subconscious is the seat of your emotions, your instinct, and your intuition. Yeah, past memories may become more vivid and clear, especially ones that are cause certain subconscious programs to form. Your interpretation that became a subconscious program. So we're using your first and second brain, and your torso, you know, your gut, but you know, your chest, your torso too. I don't care what Johns Hopkins says. It's not just the gut, although that's definitely a big part of it. Symbolic imagery, talked about that. Yeah, NLP is saying, so NLP in hypnosis is super. I use it. It's great. A lot of NLP guys don't hypnotize you first. I guess that's the difference between NLP and hypnosis. But hey, it can be useful to use NLP without having to hypnotize people. You can use it while you're talking to them and they don't even know you're using NLP. So NLP does have a very useful application, by the way. I'm not saying it's not worth using. You know, you can't be on a date and say, or trying to make a sale with someone, sell something to someone, or influence someone, say, hey, let me hypnotize you first. You know, NLP is, there's definitely very useful to use NLP without having to hypnotize. Open to suggestion. You can refuse suggestions in hypnosis. If you really don't, if I say jump off a cliff in hypnosis, you tell me to, you know, go to hell. So preparing for your first session. Above all, if you feel it, you can heal it. 90 to 95% of my sessions, my goal is substantial, permanent benefit, one session. 90 to 95% of the time I achieve that. The 5 to 10% I don't is because people are not connecting to their emotions. I talk to people for 2 hours beforehand in order, because some people, a lot, not a lot, but a minority, but a noticeable minority of people have disconnected from their feelings because it's painful. If you have toxic shame, it's painful, just so they disconnect. I talk for 2 hours to get people as connected as they can before the session. Also, I want people to understand stuff, because I don't just do one session. I give you self-hypnosis audio so you can continue the work. So I'm not just a big part of the session. I mean, number one, yeah, let's cure trauma, but let me also educate you so then you can keep curing trauma on your own. Let me help you understand why you struggle the way you do. What's at the core? What's at the origin of it? Your feelings are information. If you ignore them, then you're ignoring part of who you are and part of the information your mind is trying to give you. Now, maybe you're misinterpreting what these feelings mean. Well, all of what I'm doing here is getting you to interpret it correctly. But if you're not connected to the emotions, you're not connected to your subconscious, because that's where they come from. You just disconnect from your emotions. You disconnect. Well, you are disconnecting. Here's how it works. People who disconnect from their emotions, they're disconnecting from certain information their subconscious gives them, but they can still get triggered and feel this stuff anyways. So it's like I'm disconnected, so I don't feel it most of the time, but they can still get triggered and still like really feel in pain. That their subconscious is still messing them up, because they're still going to get all the anxiety. These programs are down there. They still get triggered. Disconnecting is not helpful at all. You disconnect from compassion and empathy for others. If you that comes from your subconscious. You disconnect from all the good things, from gut instinct and intuition that can, this supercomputer giving you gut feelings, catching stuff your subconscious mind or your conscious mind misses, your subconscious catches, is give you a gut feeling to save your skin. Helped me numerous times, these gut feelings. Well, you disconnect from that when you disconnect from your emotions. If you're not feeling this stuff, you're not, then I can't clear the trauma out if you can't feel the trauma. The subconscious program, the false core belief, toxic shame, anger, resentment, all of that, if you're feeling that, then you are connected to the program. So in hypnosis, we connect to the program by feeling this negative stuff. Doesn't feel good, but we say, hey, subconscious, what you're focusing on right now, what you're connected to, that is what we want you to send it away. So it knows what to send away because it's focusing on it. So feel it to heal it. Toxic shame, it feels like crap. But the more you get connected to this, the more you get clarity as to what's in your internal world, more on an intuitive level than a cognitive level. Yeah, let's understand it cognitively too, sure. But the healing process is way more about intuitive and actually feeling this than intellectually understanding. Although, that can be somewhat helpful too. But so when you're preparing for your first session, I want you to write this stuff down, journal it out, email it to me prior to our session, but keep it for your own records. Look at it again and say, oh, does this feel right? Does that feel right? The more you do this, the more you get connected to your inner world. That supercomputer processing 40,000 bits of info per second versus the mere 40 your conscious mind processes. You're accessing a supercomputer. This is a good thing to get connected to this, not just to clear stuff out, but to get more information so you can have more power to kick more ass in life. So write this out. 3 types of toxic shame. I'm not good enough. I don't fit in. Not as good as others. Don't connect with others. I can't get. I'm not allowed to have what I want. Some version of that. Which ones do you have? Do you have one of those? All 2, all 3? What do they feel like? Think of times where you felt not good enough. You failed at something. You rejected. You felt you didn't fit in. Maybe you rejected from a group. Someone in a group made fun of you and everyone laughed at you when you were a kid, or even as a teenager or an adult. Now you feel different from others. What does that feel like? Remember these memories. Sometimes you don't need to remember memories. For some people, it's pretty easy to feel this because this toxic shame is big and they're not, maybe a little disconnected, but not too much. Sometimes you got to think of memories and ruminate about this, but then you connect to it. Well, do that. Write it out. Write out about times that made you feel not enough. Or, a common one is, I can't get what I want because I grew up poor. Okay, well, what were certain times you were told you can't have something? Or, one guy, saw his parents like pouring over their bills and just the despondent look on their face that they couldn't pay them. That really affected him. I can't get because we're broke, we're poor, we don't have power to get what we want. We can't afford stuff. Go over all of this, journal it out. How does this apply to you? Number one, above all, how does it make you feel? When you feel it, what does it feel like? Where do you feel it in your body? Scale of 0 to 10. At the bottom here, I want you to do this for each of these. Where do you feel trauma in your body? What does it feel like? How easy is it for you to feel it? What triggers it? Ask when you say, How old was I the first time I felt this way? Ask it out loud. Your subconscious hears stuff when you say it out loud. If you think it may or may not get the message. Say it out loud, and you may intuitively get an answer. You may not trust that answer. And you say, I'm not sure if this is right or not. Write it down anyways. First thing that comes to your mind is usually right, even if you're not sure it's right. Maybe you're not sure it's right because you're not used to doing this. Give it a try. Try it out. So I want you to do this for each of these. Now, maybe you have one type of toxic shame. Maybe you don't have any of them, but it's more feeling unsafe, or you're super angry, but you don't have toxic shame tied to that. That's possible. I would say toxic shame by far is the most common. 90% of people have at least some toxic shame. Anxiety. Well, okay, when do you get anxious? Talk about the situations. What is it that makes you anxious? Now, when you are feeling anxiety, you always want to ask yourself, what is the worst thing that can happen in this situation that I'm most afraid of? Oh, I'm afraid of failing at this task. Okay. The feeling you get from that worst case scenario is the pain your anxiety is trying to get you to avoid. Anxiety is not trauma we send away. Anxiety is a tool your brain uses to avoid feeling traumatic, painful feelings tied to bad subconscious programming, at least in the context we're talking about now. Some anxiety is good, like, there's a shark. I'm in a shark tank. There's a shark outside. Yeah, you should be a little anxious. Not all anxiety is bad, but what we're talking about, connect to, okay, if you feel like you feel anxiety because there's this hot girl and you're afraid she's going to shoot you down if you approach her. Okay, well, why are you afraid if she shoots you down? Well, because if she does, it's going to hurt. You're going to feel like a loser. That is the feeling you got to connect to. You get rid of that feeling and the anxiety goes. You can still have some anxiety if you're not familiar with approaching women, or if it's a brand new woman, but it goes from a 10 out of 10 to 2 out of 10. I literally have guys tell me just by clearing toxic shame, their anxiety approaching women went from 10 out of 10, 8, 9 out of 10 down to 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10. Yeah, so toxic shame, huge effect on anxiety, huge, massive. So what is it? What's worst case scenario, but how do you feel if that worst case scenario comes to pass? There is some time in your past when that worst case scenario did come to pass and you felt terrible. That terrible feeling is what you connect to clear the anxiety. So journal that out. Connect to that if you can. If not, we'll do it in the session. In the session, I practice with you, getting you connected to this stuff. It's okay. We just do our best. Maybe you do great. Maybe you struggle. That's okay. We're all at different phases. Just do the best you can, because it's going to help me to help you that much more. Anger and resentment. Now, you can have anger, resentment towards anyone, but a lot of people have toxic shame, anxiety, it's like mom, dad, like 90% of the time. That's just my personal experience, because the mom and dad are the two biggest influences on us, bar none, as children and in our life, mom and dad. Even mom and dad not being there, that influences us. So, of course, they have the biggest influence, and we have negative programs in us. Very, very likely we're going to have resentment towards, not always, but we can have resentment towards them if the way they treat us led to toxic shame or massive anxiety or feeling unsafe, all this other painful stuff. And now your outside world, you're not successful. You're not where you want to be in life because you have this toxic shame. You're angry at your parents because they're constantly telling you weren't good enough, and that's why you're not farther ahead in life. Makes sense. So document it out, but it could be someone else. It could be a bully that terrorized you in school. It could be an especially bad teacher. It could be anything else. Who are those you have anger and resentment scale 0 to 10? How intense? You really should rate every feeling 0 to 10 that we're journaling here. Write it out. Put it in writing. Email it to me before our session. If you have a dread that things are going to fall apart, or fear, you get panic attacks, that's, feeling unsafe. Not just toxic shame, but like, oh man, am I going to lose my job and then become homeless? That's more about feeling unsafe. Write about that if you have that. A lot of people like, oh, I have this dread that in a couple months things are going to fall apart. I just feel like, I'm going to get success, but it's all going to fall apart. Or I won't even get success. I'll just do my day job. I'm going to lose my job. They have, this fear that's going to happen. Well, write it out. What is that about? What is causing that? what is that about? How have you been that way your whole life? Did some significant event happen and then you had this fear and dread after that? You know, write it out. This thing on the bottom for each of the above. Where do you feel it in your body, etc. Do that for all of it. Hopefully, me explaining how your subconscious works will help you start thinking about your upbringing and how you interpreted things as a kid, and then now, how are these early interpretations affecting how you interpret the world now? What are you getting triggered by now? Look for patterns. I keep getting triggered. You know, approach anxiety. Every time I see a hot girl, I get a lot of anxiety. If I want to approach her, you know, I won't approach her. I won't think about approaching her. I won't get anxiety. But if I'm like, man, you should approach, you get anxiety. Happens all the time. That's a pattern tied to emotion, pretty much always subconscious program. So look for patterns, especially this negative stuff. I procrastinate. I have a pattern of procrastinating. Okay, we procrastinate because we don't want to do something. We don't feel, there's some feeling that makes us want to avoid that. So journal it out with this. Again, procrastination, anxiety is going to be behind procrastination. So what is the worst case? Well, I fail at this. I make a mistake, or I don't do it, and now I'm yelled at for not doing it. That could be it too. What does that feel like? What does the worst case scenario feel like? So you write this all out, send it to me. I hope you found this useful. This is a key, and this is going to help you more than pretty much anything out there for people that really struggle, or maybe you just mildly or moderately struggle with something, but you've struggled all your life. Wouldn't it be great if something you struggle with, even though you're doing pretty good in many other areas of your life, there's 1 or 2, 3 things you're like, man, I've always struggled with this. Emotionally, always been held back, felt stuck, felt I couldn't move forward in this, avoided this, you know, always felt pain when this happened. Man, wouldn't it be great to just get rid of that forever? Good chance we can. So here we go. Stop the share. So that's what I had. Uploading it to YouTube. This is for all clients, but also for anyone that wants to understand how your subconscious works. It's so misunderstood, and it has such a massive influence on what you do more than anything else. This is influencing what you do, how successful or unsuccessful you are in life, how happy or sad you are. This is where it's at. So I hope you found this useful. Thank you. And remember, by the way, self-hypnosis stuff I give people, they use it to heal themselves. You got the power. I'm just giving you, once you got the knowledge, you apply this, you now have the power to rock your own world. You just need to learn the right things. So you do have more power than you know. That's my job, to help give you that power. I don't want to be a superhero. I want to make you a superhero. I kind of want to be a superhero a little bit, but that's all I had. Thank you guys.